Okay. Has anyone ever heard of the Act, Death with Dignity Act? There, people should be able to medically take their own life instead of suffering through the pain until the end. I want to talk about Brittany Menard. She died November of last year. She was a 29-year-old woman who had been only married for a little over just a year. She was having tremendous headaches, and on New Year's Day, she was diagnosed with brain cancer. She did all kinds of procedures and surgeries to remove the tumor, but in April the tumor grew back even stronger, and she was then diagnosed with only 6 months to live. At the time, California was not legal for the Death with Dignity Act, so she had to move to Oregon and be a resident in Oregon to be able to request aid and dying medication under the law. She then died in her room, in her bedroom, with her family all around her. There's 3 things in my speech that I would like to discuss is that states that allows Death with Dignity Act, some that are considering it, and the pros and cons of it. There are several states that only allows Death with Dignity Act, and Kansas has been considered this act in the past, but still should continue to be suggested to the law. The good that can come from this is that the friends and family of the individual can prepare themselves for the day that the individual has set the day to end their own life. It is legal. The Death with Dignity Act is legal in several states, and we need to change it to more so that those who have been diagnosed with terminal illness do not have to move away from their friends and family to a state where it is legal. According to Take Action with Death with Dignity around the U.S., Montana is the only state that is legal, but by court decision. The 3 states that it's legal in is in Oregon, which was passed in 1997, Washington, which was passed in 2006, and Vermont. Patient choice and control at the end of life was passed in 2013. California was passed this year, but is not yet effective. On how to access Death with Dignity laws, the law allows certain terminally ill adults to voluntarily request and receive pre-medication to hasten their death. To be qualified under the law, you must be a resident of Oregon, Washington, or Vermont. You have to be at least 18 years of age, mentally contempt, and diagnosed with terminal illness that will lead into death within 6 months. The 2 physicians have to determine that these criteria have been met. While there are a few states being legalized, there are still some that are considering. Kansas is one of 23 states that is considering this act. On Kansas Death with Dignity Act, it says that it is proposed the law that's modeled closely to Oregon's law. If it is passed, the patient requesting aid in dying must be at least 18 years old, a Kansas resident, mentally capable of making and communicating health care decisions, and diagnosed with a terminal disease that results in death within 6 months. Once the requirements have been met, the patient will be prescribed only if the patient makes 2 requests to the doctor within 15 days, gives a written request and signed in front of 2 qualified adults. The law sets out a specific form for the patient to be must use. The prescribing doctor and the other doctor confirms that the patient's diagnosis and prognosis. In order to use the meds, the patient must ingest the medication on their own. If a doctor or any other person administers the medication, they may face criminal charges. That's just part of an overview of the Kansas Death with Dignity Act. While the Kansas state figures out if it's going to be legalized or not, there are pros and cons to it. It gives the individual peace of mind that they are in control of their own death. On pros and cons on death with dignity, the pros is that they have freedom to select to induce death while already suffering too much from his or her incurable illness, where even the finest treatment does not enhance his or her quality of life. Legalizing will help in evaluating the patient's suffering if it is unfair and inhumane to all those who have terminal illness to stand in intolerable pain. There are some cons that the act to death with dignity is the act of murdering in all religious beliefs. Death with dignity or mercy killing is ethically incorrect and must be prohibited by the law. Considered as homicide and killing or murdering another individual may not be rationalized on any circumstances. I know that I know this is a lot to take in, but let me clarify everything I just said in these basic points. Not many states consider this kind of act for a few reasons because it can be a touchy subject to some people. Kansas is still considering this act, but it has not yet passed. Yes, there are pros and cons to it, but at least the family and friends of the individual will be able to prepare themselves just as much. If you agree, please check out the documentary on how to die in Oregon, and if you have Netflix. Death with dignity has many advantages and disadvantages, but it's up to you to make the decision on which side you're on. Thank you.
I remember reading about her. That was sad.